Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're venturing into, well, maybe a surprising and potentially problematic side of the esports boom.
Yeah, the whole world of esports betting
Exactly. We'll be looking at why it's raising red flags, especially, concerning younger fans.
and the complications.
Hmm.
Oh boy, the complications from cryptocurrency.
Right, and that ties into the ongoing challenge of match fixing too, doesn't it?
It really does. It's this landscape where the excitement of competitive gaming just crashes right into the complexities of online wagering.
And it's not always a smooth intersection, is it?
Not at all. We've been looking at a podcast script actually called Esports Betting Hell, Kids, Crypto, and Rigged Matches.
Oof, quite the title.
It really digs into some of the serious issues at play. Some compelling stuff, but also pretty concerning at times.
Yeah, so our goal today is basically to pull out the most crucial information, the potential pitfalls highlighted in that material.
We want to give you a clear picture of what's happening behind the scenes, beyond the big wins and the flashy ads.
Okay, so let's maybe start with the scale. I mean, esports is huge now, right?
Oh, absolutely massive. You think about packed arenas for games like League of Legends or Counter-Strike.
$1 million prize pools.
Exactly. But then you contrast that with how incredibly fast the betting side has grown.
And the regulation hasn't quite caught up.
Not even close. The frameworks are really struggling to keep pace with that kind of expansion. It's like the Wild West almost.
And one of the most alarming things that script highlighted was how easily young people can get involved.
Yeah, that's deeply concerning. We're talking reports of kids as young as 12 placing bets.
12? Wow. How is that even possible?
Well, the source points to some, frankly, significant weaknesses in age verification on a lot of these betting platforms.
Like what? Just tick in a box?
Often, yeah. It seems to come down to just self-declaration.
Yeah.
You click a button saying you're over 18.
Which is obviously not a robust system.
Not remotely. And these sites, they're designed to pull you in. Very cleverly designed. They use tactics really similar to the games themselves. Bright colors, lots of action, promotion.
Streamer endorsements too, right? Popular gamers promoting them?
Big time.
Yeah.
And those tempting free bet offers, it's almost like they're trying to make gambling feel like just another part of the game.
Gamification of gambling.
That's a key point, yeah.
Yeah.
It creates this very normalized, almost appealing environment for young people.
And the script suggested parents might be totally unaware.
That seems likely. Their kid is playing video games, seems harmless enough. They might have no idea they're also betting on those games.
Right. It's not like they're walking into a betting shop.
Exactly. And the financial fallout for these kids can be, well, pretty significant for them.
The source mentioned an example, didn't it? Something about Rocket League.
Yeah, kids losing their allowance, betting on specific moments, like a headshot goal in Rocket League. It just shows the real-world impact.
Okay, so that's already worrying. But then you throw crypto into the mix.
Ah, yes. This adds a whole other layer of complexity and arguably increases the risks quite a bit.
So we're seeing a shift away from, like, normal money. Dollars, euros.
We are towards cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dogecoin.
Mm-hmm.
The source even mentioned really volatile, almost joke ones like that Squid Game token.
Seriously. Wow. And the big appeal there is the anonymity, I guess.
That seems to be a major factor. It lets people place bets without using traditional banks.
No paper trail.
Pretty much. You get a level of privacy you just don't get with conventional methods. But that causes huge problems for oversight.
How so?
Well, this anonymity creates a massive hurdle for regulators, for tax authorities. Imagine trying to track minors betting with crypto.
Especially if it's happening on platforms like Discord.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The source mentioned kids on Discord betting on games like Valorant using crypto.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to monitor that effectively?
Decentralized nature of it all.
Makes it incredibly challenging. No central bank, no easy transaction records to follow.
Okay, so this is where it gets maybe even murkier, right? This crypto element potentially getting tangled up with illicit stuff.
That's a major concern raised in the source material, particularly the potential for using crypto to make match fixing easier and much more secretive.
How would that work?
Well, think about it. Someone wants to bribe a player to throw a match.
Okay.
Using crypto, they can send funds almost instantly, anywhere in the world, without leaving the kind of digital footprint a bank transfer would.
Making it much harder to trace the money if someone investigates.
Significantly harder.
Yeah.
It bypasses all the usual financial checks and balances.
And the crypto market itself is so volatile. Does that play a role?
It introduces another really unpredictable element. The source mentioned, imagine someone gets a bribe in crypto,
Right.
and then its value suddenly skyrockets. Maybe because of a tweet from someone famous,
Like Elon Musk moving the market.
Exactly. Suddenly their illicit payout could be worth way more. It just adds another layer of gambling almost onto the crime itself.
The podcast script mentions specific places where this happens, like Discord again.
Yeah, it highlighted these online communities, Discord servers specifically, where players are apparently approached directly
Approached how?
with offers disguised as sponsorships.
Yeah.
But really, they're just bribes to deliberately underperform.
Wow. Like, lose this round for X amount of Bitcoin.
That was pretty much the example given, yeah.
Okay.
A specific amount of Bitcoin to intentionally lose a particular round in a game.
And who are they targeting? Is it just the top pros?
Not necessarily. And that's a key point. There's a real vulnerability factor. Younger players, maybe teens.
Or players from regions with fewer economic opportunities?
Exactly. Those kinds of offers, even if they seem small to some, could be incredibly tempting.
Okay, so that's players being bribed. But the source also mentioned issues with the betting sites themselves.
Yes, that's a really important angle. Beyond individual players fixing matches, there's the risk of the platforms manipulating things.
Like rigging the odds?
Or even outcomes, potentially. The example that really highlights this is skin gambling.
Ah, yes, in games like CS:GO. Explain that quickly.
Sure. So skins are basically virtual cosmetic items in the game. Different looks for weapons, characters, whatever.
But they have real-world value. People buy and sell them.
Correct.
Yeah.
And people started betting these skins, these items, with actual monetary value on match outcomes.
Okay.
And what the podcast revealed is that some of these skin gambling sites got caught. They were using bots, automated programs,
To do what?
to manipulate the odds, essentially rigging the system against the bettors.
So the house was cheating.
In effect, yes. It shows the manipulation isn't just players throwing matches. The platforms themselves can be deceptive.
Right. Okay, let's pivot slightly. What are the consequences when matches are rigged? What does this do to esports overall?
Oh, it's hugely damaging.
Yeah.
Really detrimental to the credibility of the whole scene.
How so?
Well, at its core, it just erodes trust, doesn't it? Fan trust in the competitive integrity.
If people think games are fixed.
Why watch? Why get invested? Why care about the amazing plays if you suspect it might all be predetermined? It undermines the very soul of sport.
And the source gave actual examples, right? This isn't just theoretical.
No, sadly not. It mentioned the Overwatch contenders scandal, a coach bribing players,
Right, I remember hearing about that.
and also a lifetime ban for a Rainbow Six Siege pro player for match fixing. So it happens at different levels.
But the podcast pointed out the punishments aren't always consistent.
That's a big issue, yes. It seems punishments vary wildly across different esports leagues and organizations.
From lifetime bans to, what, a slap on the wrist?
Sometimes it can feel like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Relatively minor penalties compared to the offense. And that sends a really confusing message.
Doesn't exactly discourage others, does it?
Probably not effectively. And this inconsistency, it directly feeds into fan perception.
Oh.
Fans start to question everything. You see an incredible performance by a top player, and that little seed of doubt creeps in. Was that skill, or was it scripted?
Yeah, that's corrosive. So what can actually be done? Did the source offer any potential solutions?
It offered some initial thoughts, yeah. Things like needing stronger, more unified regulations across the board,
Makes sense.
more effective age verification, obviously, on betting platforms. That seems critical.
And maybe esports organizations taking a tougher stance, like traditional sports leagues do.
Perhaps looking at those models, yeah. Treating match fixing with the seriousness it deserves more consistently.
Are there any signs things are moving in the right direction? Any positive developments?
There are some glimmers. The source mentioned partnerships starting to form between esports leagues and companies that specialize in fraud detection.
Okay. So recognition of the problem is growing.
It seems so. And also prominent figures in the community, like streamers, Pokemon was mentioned, starting to speak out against dodgy betting sponsors.
That's good. Public pressure.
It can help shift attitudes, definitely. But,
Yeah.
and it's a big but, crypto. Its continued presence and, increasing integration into all this remain a huge challenge for regulation and enforcement.
Because of that anonymity and decentralization we talked about.
Exactly. Traditional oversight methods just aren't as effective. It's a tough nut to crack.
So wrapping this up then, it's clear there are some pretty significant shadows hanging over esports betting.
Definitely.
Uh,
Especially concerning young people getting caught up in it. The sheer complexity crypto adds.
and the constant threat of match fixing just undermining the whole thing.
It really demands a more critical look, doesn't it? beyond the flashy tournaments and big money image.
Yeah, it really does. Which kind of leaves us with a big question, I think.
What's that?
Well, thinking about how fast all this is evolving, esports, online gambling, these decentralized technologies like crypto, what are the long-term consequences going to be?
Hmm. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? For the industry, for its integrity.
And especially for its really young audience, where does this all lead in 5, 10 years?
It's a landscape that's going to need constant watching. And probably some pretty proactive solutions, I suspect. Definitely something for you, the listener, to think about.